Hello, are you well? Welcome to the Quatrehomme cheese shop. We're going to taste some AOP cheeses today, and I'm going to explain to you what AOP is. Appellation d'origine protégée means the origin of the name is protected. In France, we used to have AOC, but since it's been a European standard, it's now called AOP. First, we're going to taste some Isigny AOP butter, then some Chabichou from Poitou, the region of Poitiers, Comté, Brie from Meaux, Camembert from Normandy, and Roquefort. Walk this way, gentlemen. AOP is not only for cheese, it's also for cream and butter, like the AOP Isigny butter that's made in Normandy at Isigny-on-Sea, to be precise. Unlike some other AOPs, the Isigny AOP is a very small area of land, the terroir, of about 30 kilometers. Normandy has a great advantage, it never freezes. Cows are outside for 8 months, and they graze only on fresh grass, which gives the butter a very dark yellow color, like buttercups. It's a very refined and delicate butter. In order to make a kilo of butter, you need about 20 liters of milk. Now, we always have to smell it first, and then we can enjoy it. I find it has a hint of hazelnut. Exactly, the gentleman has a palate. So we get a little taste of hazelnut coming through. After the butter, we'll go on to the cheese, the Chabichou from Poitou, which, as its name indicates, comes exclusively from the region of Poitiers. The Chabichou from Poitou has the characteristic shape which we might call a plug or bung, the piece of wood or cork which was used as a stopper in barrels. The origin of the word Chabichou could be the Arabic word chebli for goat. Here you have a young Chabichou du Poitou, which is whiter because it's been maturing for only 15 to 20 days. And here's one that's 10 days older, so 30 days minimum. The texture is very delicate, it's smooth. I'm going to taste it too because I love it. It's quite fresh in the mouth, it's instantaneous. We'll see the difference with the same product, the same milk and the same makers. We're still in the AOP area, but we've added 10 more days maturing. The goat cheese dries, loses moisture and gets stronger in taste. That's the whole point of being a master cheese maturer, bringing the product to its optimum quality. We'll move on now. There are still 4 AOPs to taste. You're just in time for the third tasting. Please gather round, gentlemen. Comté is a product from the Jura Mountains. In terms of tonnage or quantity, and even as an export, it's the leading French AOP. The French people's favorite cheese. Indeed, it's one of the French people's favorite cheeses. Easy to eat, high-class product. To make a whole wheel of Comté that weighs about 40 kilos, you need 400 liters of milk. It requires a specific area of production, a breed of cow, the Simmental and the Montbéliard, precise specifications for production techniques, and a minimum of 4 months aging for it to be called a Comté. At the Quatrehomme cheesemakers, we offer 4 Comtés of different maturities, 12 months, 24, 36 months, and the very young. Now we're going to use the typical knife for cutting Comté, the double-handled. The texture is quite firm, and we're going to start the tasting with our nose. It's quite floral. It's good. Do you like it? We find aromas of dried fruits, hazelnuts and chestnuts too. It's a cheese that marries very well with the bread from the Lendemain bakery. Hazelnut, grape, chestnut and honey. And we're also going to taste it with a little drop of wine.
Hello, gentlemen. Well, we've mentioned wine and we've mentioned wine merchants, so now I'm going to suggest a food and wine pairing based on a Savinière Rochemoine. I can see the surprised look on your faces. Yes, it's a small bottle, and we call it a flask. It's a 10 centiliter flask, and it's a size that is very suited to this device that's called the Divine. Now, what does the Divine do? It's a recently developed machine that's going to provide you with the ideal conditions for tasting a wine, temperature and oxygenation. Ready to try? Now, it's very simple. The machine will recognize the flask thanks to the RFID microchip, which is on each flask. I just have to put my glass under it and press. That's done. It's ready in less than a minute at the perfect temperature and with the equivalent of 3 hours oxygenation. What's interesting is there's a real parallel between the cheese and the wine, because I saw you smell the cheese, and now we're going to do the same thing with the wine. There's always 3 steps: sight, smell, and taste.
Now we're going to move on to another family of cheeses, the soft cheeses with a bloomy rind. We have 2 great classics as examples, Brie de Meaux and Normandy Camembert. Historically, it's called Brie de Meaux because the producers of milk and the producers of cheese, who were much further away in the east of France, would meet up with the buyers of Brie de Meaux. So Brie was bought in Meaux. Brie de Meaux is that wheel of Brie which weighs about 3 kilos and is made with a Brie shovel. That's the tool that you can see here, and it's quite different from the way Normandy Camembert is made. That's made by using a ladle. It's quite a creamy cheese that's quite powerful towards the end of its affinage or maturing. It's a cheese made from raw cow's milk. We're going to taste the Brie with some bread, a traditional sourdough bread, okay? And there we have a perfectly matured Brie expressing all its aromas without being overpowering. Wonderful. The rind smells of undergrowth, mushroom. It's magnificent. Now we'll move on to Normandy Camembert, which is a sort of cousin of Brie de Meaux. But it develops a bit more character than Brie de Meaux, and it's stronger too. It matures a little more quickly. Why do I emphasize Normandy Camembert? It's because Camembert is one of the most copied cheeses in France and throughout the world, because the appellation or name Camembert has not been protected. If you want to eat a real Camembert made in Normandy, it must have the label Camembert de Normandie. As a little aside, the wooden box was created, as the cheeses are quite fragile, to make transporting and selling it easier. And this really launched the commercialization of the product, because it was protected and easy to transport and sell. And that's how Normandy Camembert came to be one of the emblems of France. The chalky center, which is in no way detrimental, helps it to retain its shape. Wait and see, it's beautifully strong. So what can you drink with this then?
We spoke of a classic cheese, so I'd like to suggest another venture into the classics with a red wine.
Oh, that would please my granddad.
Exactly. But today I'm going to take you to Bandol. I'm going to take you to the south of France in Provence. The Mourvèdre grape is typical of Bandol, and the characteristic of that variety is its fruity notes with hints of red currant, blackberry, and at the same time a suggestion of mint. It's fresh.
And finally, gentlemen, we're going to taste Roquefort. It's the oldest AOP in France, dating from 1925. It's a cheese made from raw ewe's milk from a very specific breed, the Lacône. It's a blue cheese matured only in the village in the Aveyron called Roquefort-sur-Soulzon. It's a village nestling at the heart of the Rock of the Combalou. This is the only place that can mature the cheese in natural ripening cellars that are ventilated by fissures in the rock known as fleurines. These guarantee a constant level of hygrometry and temperature and provide the perfect conditions required for the development of Penicillium roqueforti. This microscopic fungus gives all its aromas to this extraordinary cheese. It's a product that's full of character because the taste is instantaneous in the mouth. It's really striking. You can't mistake Roquefort for any other cheese. It's really a very complete product that marries very well with bread and, of course, with wine too.
I have a wine to propose to you. It's a Sauterne, a Château de Mal. It's a Cru Classé of 1855. Here you have a wine that is very round, very supple, and at the same time has very powerful taste. And you find exactly the same thing with Roquefort. So we're going to have a harmony of texture. What's important is to respect the balance of flavors. When we associate food and wine, we're trying to make 1 + 1 = 3. That is to enhance the wine and the cheese. Between them, they create a third dimension. They each become even better when they are together. And with that and this beautiful tasting,
Merci.